Hi everyone and welcome back to the final part of this wildcard draft series where I've been looking at who, if I was wildcarding right now, I would be bringing in as part of that team or squad. Now, I've said in the previous couple of videos who I would have had in if I was doing goalkeepers and defenders, and of course we covered midfielders yesterday. Today is the turn of those three all-important forwards. Now, just to recap how the team is currently looking, this is where we were after those first couple of videos. So we had Raya and Foster in goal, with Trent Alexander-Arnold, Rudiger, Livramento, Cancelo and White at the back, Salah, Son, Mbeumo, Gallagher and Rafinha in the middle. And then of course we already had Lukaku, as he was part of that original three-man spine of Trent, Salah and Lukaku, who were my non-negotiables for this wildcard team. They were the players that no matter what else happened, were going to make it into this draft. Now today we're going to talk about these other two forward spots. Who could take up those places? Now remember that I am doing this team based upon my own team value, and therefore of course everyone's team value is going to be slightly different about now. So going into this position, I think this one is potentially the team position that offers the most flexibility. There are a number of really nice options that you can use here to bolster your team, but also to fit in with that all-important budget, because of course having filled up the rest of those spaces, we need to make some moves. Now I'm going to go through why Lukaku and then four other potential options for those final two spots, but there is obviously some potential across the rest of that squad to free up a little bit of money. If you don't have enough money and you want to go for more premiums up top, then going for somebody like Lucas Moura for that Newcastle game instead of Son could be a good way of doing it. You can also free up some money by looking maybe at somebody like Smith Rowe instead of Rafinha, and that will allow you to free up a little bit of budget. Or of course, if you're just 0.1 shy, you can always go back to Robert Sanchez in goal rather than going Raya. Although I do think if you've got that 0.1, Raya looks like a really, really nice option, particularly with those Brentford fixtures. So as always then, when I'm starting to pick a wildcard team, I take a dive into the Fantasy Football Scout members area, and this time obviously looking at the different forwards in the game. So here we have this season's big chance total for the different forwards, and you can see Antonio sitting at the top there with 7, followed by Vardy and Ronaldo, and then Jimenez, Lukaku, Maupay. Players at the top there that you would probably expect to have there. Kane sitting quite a lot further down that list with just the 3 big chances so far. Watkins also there with 3, but of course he has missed 2 games to start the season in comparison to the 1 that Kane missed in the opening week of the year. And then of course down at the bottom we have the cheaper potential options in the likes of Tony and Adams at Southampton. So have a little look at big chances. That gives me a feeling for how good the chances are that these forwards are getting, and therefore the amount of good creation that we are seeing across the team. We can also then have a look at the total number of chances that they're having, the number of chances they've had in the box, and of course the number of goals that they have scored so far this season and where those goals have come from, as well as the number of minutes that it takes them to have an attempt on goal. Having a little look at attempts then, got 2 different stats for you here to have a little look at. The top one is across the season as a whole, and we can see Antonio up there, top for attempts for the forwards with 27, followed by Armstrong, interestingly, with 21. And these Southampton fixtures are very, very nice indeed moving forward. Slight concerns over the Ward-Prowse suspension, keeping him out of the next one. That might be a little bit of a concern. But that level of opportunity, the level of attempts that he is getting, makes him a decent differential option in my opinion. Vardy underneath him, and we've spoken a lot on the FPL Family channel about Vardy and about how difficult it is to own him. Not because you wouldn't necessarily want to, but because of his price point. Coming in at 10.4, he is challenging the likes of Lukaku and Ronaldo, although of course not quite that expensive. But it is very difficult to budget for him if you want to fit in all those guys also. Then we have Ronaldo, of course, there with Lukaku following close behind. Just the one less goal attempt than Ronaldo has. And then obviously Jimenez sitting there level with Lukaku, Dennis and Tony following through. Then what I've done is I've had a little look at the last couple of game weeks, because of course over the course of the season we are now 7 game weeks in, and that data can change quite a lot between those different game weeks and those different periods of time. So I wanted to have a look at the form and who was getting the most attempts recently. Now we can still see Antonio sitting up high, as we can see Jamie Vardy sitting up high. So those two potentially still offering good value for money. Kane is up there, top for attempts over the last couple of game weeks. And when you consider that he was pretty awful against Arsenal in game week 6, slightly better against Aston Villa in game week 7, but did have a lot more opportunities in that game. It's interesting to see him sitting there. I'm sure I'm not going to budget for him, and I'm not sure most people are, particularly after this Newcastle game. We might be wanting to look at him in game week 13 if, and it's a big if Kane has pulled his finger out and is starting to be the Kane that we know and love, both as Spurs fans but also as FPL managers, that we want that reliable, regular points ticking over that we've seen with Kane, particularly last season. We want that back again if we're going to invest the level of money that we have to. Although, of course, significant price drops for Kane now, down at 12.1 million. Wouldn't surprise me, actually, over the next couple of weeks to see him be bought in for this Newcastle game, but then to be taken out again and to lose that extra 0.1 and be just the 12 million. Other players that we've got in there that are of interest, obviously Aubameyang's an interesting one. Again, like Vardy, sitting in that difficult price point to reach, but with the Arsenal fixtures changing, and he has been improving alongside the rest of that Arsenal team getting better. But we also have some nice cheaper options in there too, with the likes of Dennis, with the likes of Morpay, and of course Jesus sitting in there too. He could be an interesting one, given that Pep seems to not be favouring Torres as much right now. And the Manchester City fixtures are looking really nice. If you can, he could be a nice option. Let's start then with the main man and Lukaku. Now, of course, Lukaku was always going to be part of this team. When I wildcarded a few weeks ago, he was a player that I bought in at the expense of Cristiano Ronaldo. And I do think that we are coming to a point in our FPL seasons where owning both Ronaldo and Lukaku, as well as Salah, who we're not going to want to get rid of, as well as Trent, is giving us headaches across the rest of our teams. It's making that squad incredibly unbalanced, and it's making it difficult to move between the other players that are performing well. If you can choose between them and if you just go with one of them, it is making for a more balanced and potentially better squad. Means that you're not necessarily so reliant on that starting 11, and you do have some benching options. Lukaku then has blanked in the last 3 game weeks, of course, but I just don't think you can wildcard and not have him in. In game week 7, were it not for the post, a few inches of VAR decisions being ruled offside, he could have easily braced. He was also like that a couple of weeks prior as well. Against Spurs, he was unlucky, and was unlucky again in game week 6 not to get something. So I think what we're seeing over the last few weeks is a theme that he's been more unlucky. Maybe should have done better, of course, those. And that is, of course, shown by the fact that he was top for XG underachievers in game week 7. The run of fixtures that Chelsea have look remarkable, so owning him looks like something you don't want to do. He has potential for set and forget captaincy, although with Salah's form and Salah playing Watford next, I think you're going to captain Salah over Lukaku. He's got a more difficult fixture on paper against Brentford. Other than that, then, you've got decisions to make in terms of who you pick as your other 2 forwards. I've picked out 4 who I think could be good options, but of course in here there is no mention of Vardy, there's no mention of Antonio, simply because of the length of time that it would take me to go through all of those. And I wanted to try and give you a view as to who I think I would be going for if I was wildcarding right now. So it would definitely be Lukaku, and then it would be 2 of these, and I'm really torn. I can't afford to own both Jimenez and Watkins together, so there would have to be some decisions to be made there in terms of maybe Jimenez and Tony, or Ollie Watkins and Hwang, but I think they're both doable options. But let's start then with Jimenez. Jimenez for me is FPL royalty. He is a player that I love owning. I feel like we have, in seasons gone by, had some real consistency with him. He was never this huge hitting forward. He was never likely to get hat-tricks or braces, but he always seemed to tick over the points. 6 pointers, 6 pointers, 6 pointers, regular goals, regular assists for Jimenez. Obviously, horrendous injury last season, absolutely horrendous. Came back, didn't quite seem to be the player that we had left, but then that's not really surprising given how big an injury it was. But what we have seen in the last 2 game weeks is, in particular, is highlights of the Jimenez of old. We're starting to see him back again obviously got his first goal in game week 6, and then in game week 7 with his new attack partner in Hwang, got 2 assists for Hwang's brace. Now, I really love Jimenez. I think he is a player that I would move a lot around for in order to own him. If he's the sort of player that I think I would want to own if it meant moving to Mora from Son, that sort of player. But I also think there are other options there too. Ollie Watkins, in my mind, has been criminally overlooked, and in part that was because of, obviously, missed the opening couple of game weeks of the season. There was a lot of concern from FPL managers, myself included, about the impact that Danny Ings might have on Ollie Watkins, the fact that we were worried that Ollie Watkins might play out on the left. Those things haven't come to fruition. We haven't seen that from Ollie Watkins. In fact, what we've seen is them playing together through the middle. His goal against Spurs was his first attacking returns of the season, and of course that was something that I did think was coming. I predicted that would happen on the podcast, and it did. He betters Danny Ings for attempts 13-8, for shots on target 7-4, for big chances 3-1, despite playing 2 less fixtures than Ings has. And of course, he's going into game week 7. He was only owned by 1.5% of the game. He's a massive differential, and the fixtures are improving. They're starting to come out of this difficult period of fixtures that Aston Villa had, and we're now starting to see some more positives. So Watkins and Jimenez, I think, could be nice options. Tony's in there because I think obviously at the beginning of the season we were all looking at Tony. A lot of us had him. He was incredibly popular. And then he had a bit of a slow start, but my goodness, has that slow start turned around in recent game weeks. Obviously, the game week against Wolves, he was unlucky to get way more than he did. He should have and could have had another couple of goals were it not for VAR decisions. I really like Tony. He's cheap, he's a nice enabler, and the Brentford fixtures after Chelsea are delightful. And I do think that there is scope for investing in him. And Mbeumo, who of course has already made my midfield. I do think you can go with the double up there, but I don't know if you necessarily want to go for 3 of them with Raya, Mbeumo and Tony. That might be a little bit of overkill, which is why he's in this kind of pool of players, because if you're going with Tony, maybe you aren't going with Mbeumo because you want to go with Raya, or maybe if you're going Mbeumo, you're not going with Tony instead. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having both of them up top, and that is something that we were a bit afraid to do at the start of the season, but is now looking like it might be quite promising. And I've also put Hwang in there. Now, until the last couple of game weeks, obviously has had limited minutes, but actually in the last couple we've started to see more consistency from him, and of course we've had consistent returns from him, forming a really nice partnership with Jimenez, and significantly cheaper than his teammate and strike partner. I think depending on your budget, going with one of these Wolves boys makes an awful lot of sense. And therefore, for me, I would be looking to invest in 2 of these alongside Lukaku, depending upon your budget and depending upon how you are structuring your team. But doing that and having 2 of those in with the rest of these gives you the ability to play 4-3-3. It gives you the ability to play 3-4-3. And if you really wanted to, or you had a particularly bad fixture for one of your forwards, then you do have the ability to obviously go 4-4-2. But I think predominantly I would be looking to build a wildcard team that has those 3 forwards that you're going to play every single week. That's it. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Who would be your 3 forwards of choice? Would you be going Lukaku? And who would you be backing him up with? Would it be a couple of these, or would it be somebody else? Let me know in the comments below what you think. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button so you're notified every time that we go live. And if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. I will be back over the weekend to have a look at the premium options and which ones you should be bringing in over the next few days. Thanks for watching, guys.